Think about the last time you ordered a bucket of fried chicken, expecting that crisp, golden crunch from your childhood, only to end up staring at a greasy, lukewarm disappointment that cost you a small fortune and left you feeling actively ill an hour later. You probably blamed the teenager behind the counter, or assumed you just got a bad batch on a rainy Friday night, but the truth is far more calculated. You are being systematically shortchanged by a multi-billion-pound industry that relies on you staying blind to what happens before that meat hits the fryer. By the time you finish watching this, you will know exactly why the high street chicken game has become an absolute ripoff, exposing secrets that 90% of shoppers have no clue about. You will find out how the poultry on your plate is engineered to grow at a terrifying, unnatural speed. I will show you the industrial chemistry tricks used to make you pay premium prices for literal tap water. And we will dissect the corporate greed that is driving local branches into outright bankruptcy. Stick around, because the most shocking revelation about the systemic collapse of your favorite high street staple comes right near the end. Before we name the specific culprits sitting on every British high street from Manchester to London, we need to understand how the modern fast food machine actually functions, because it has completely abandoned traditional cooking in favor of high-velocity industrial manufacturing. Imagine buying a brand new sports car, but discovering the manufacturer forced the engine to run at maximum revs from the second it left the factory line, completely ignoring whether the brakes or chassis could handle the strain. That is exactly how mass-market chicken is produced today. The birds are not raised. They are assembled under hyper-accelerated timelines where every single hour is calculated against corporate profit margins. This selective breeding process forces the animals to put on weight at a rate that completely shatters natural biological boundaries. The breast meat grows so aggressively fast that it acts like a runaway train, leaving the bird's own skeletal structure and cardiovascular system struggling to keep pace. It is a system designed purely for yield, completely ignoring the structural integrity of the product, which is precisely why the texture of your high street dinner so often feels stringy, woody, or completely devoid of actual substance. But the industry manipulation does not stop at the breeding facility. It moves straight into the processing plant through a clever bit of chemistry known as moisture enhancement. Think of it like soaking a kitchen sponge in heavy syrup to make it weigh more at the till. Massive food corporations inject the raw meat with a heavy brine laced with sodium phosphates, which chemically forces the muscle fibers to hold onto water that would normally evaporate during cooking. When you buy a bucket by weight, a significant portion of your hard-earned cash isn't going toward high-quality protein. It is paying for engineered tap water trapped inside the meat. Once that engineered protein arrives at the restaurant, it enters a kitchen environment that has been utterly ruined by what the industry calls complexity creep. A fast food kitchen used to be a beautifully simple machine, designed to do one single job with absolute precision, much like a classic assembly line. Today, corporate executives looking to squeeze extra revenue streams keep forcing these tiny overheated kitchens to act like gourmet coffee shops, dessert bars, and cocktail lounges all at once. When you ask a small team working on minimum wage during a chaotic Friday night rush to juggle complex drink orders alongside pressure fryers, the entire system grinds to a halt, and the core product is the first thing to suffer. To make matters worse, the people actually running these individual shops are caught in a brutal financial vice. The global corporate masters sit back and take a guaranteed percentage of every single sale right off the top, leaving the local franchise owner to deal with skyrocketing energy bills, rising wages, and soaring ingredient costs. When the margin disappears, the local owner only has a few levers left to pull. They can shrink the portions, leave the cooked food sweating under heat lamps far longer than they should, or cut staff numbers to the absolute bone. You are not eating the result of a chef's recipe. You are eating the mathematical breakdown of a corporate compromise. Let us dive straight into the absolute core of the deception and break down the specific household names that are bleeding your wallet dry, starting with the very brand that dominates every British retail park and high street, KFC UK. Owned by Yum Brands but operated across Britain by a web of squeezed franchisees, this brand trades entirely on a warm, fuzzy feeling of nostalgia. You remember the Friday night treat from the 90s, the smell of the cardboard bucket steaming on the kitchen table, perhaps followed by a Viennetta from Iceland or Tesco. But that memory is being weaponized against you. The modern reality is a horror show of industrial efficiency. According to formal corporate admissions made in early 2026, KFC UK officially walked away from its long-standing better chicken commitment, a pledge signed 7 years prior to transition to slower-growing bird breeds by 2026. Their own European supply chain officers admitted the British poultry industry simply could not deliver. While they celebrated a 7% spike in same-store sales by distracting the public with a limited-time pickle-themed menu imported from abroad, they quietly abandoned basic animal welfare. When you bite into an original recipe drumstick today, you are eating a bird engineered to reach full slaughter weight in just 35 days, causing documented leg deformities and cardiac strain. This hyper-accelerated growth leaves the meat texturally completely unpredictable, often arriving dry, stringy, or strangely rubbery. If you think that is a one-off, remember when they switched their logistics contract to DHL and completely ran out of chicken across 500 UK branches, forcing police forces in London and Manchester to issue public notices telling people that a missing bargain bucket is not a police emergency. If you already feel like checking your own kitchen cupboards to see what else is lying to you, hit that subscribe button right now, because the corporate corner cutting gets significantly harsher from here. Let us talk about what you are actually paying for at the till. A classic bargain bucket that used to cost a fiver a decade ago now ranges anywhere from 17 to 23 quid, depending on whether you are buying it in a London high street or a suburban retail park. To justify that price, head office relies heavily on the romantic myth of Colonel Sanders and his secret recipe of 11 herbs and spices. But a quick look at KFC's published UK ingredient and allergen log exposes the industrial reality. Before that chicken ever touches flour, it is soaked in a high-tech brine of salt, sodium phosphate, and monosodium glutamate. Sodium phosphate is an industrial moisture retention chemical whose sole purpose is to bloat the muscle tissue with water, ensuring that part of what you are paying for by weight is literal tap water chemically trapped inside the bird. Furthermore, the NHS recommends adults consume no more than 6 grams of salt per day, yet a single piece of original recipe chicken contains a staggering 2.3 grams. Order a meal with fries and a drink, and you have obliterated your entire daily allowance in a single lunch sitting. This brings us to the next massive player on the high street, the undisputed heavyweight of the UK grocery market, Tesco. Specifically, their ubiquitous everyday value and standard tier pre-packed chicken breasts and takeaway-style buckets found in the chilled aisles. Tesco positions itself as the champion of the British household budget, but an independent investigation by the consumer group which revealed shocking discrepancies in the actual meat content of supermarket discount poultry lines. Lab data showed that supermarket chicken can contain up to 15% added water and chemical binding agents hidden behind labels like added protein or stabilizers. When you drop that chicken breast into a hot frying pan, it doesn't brown. It immediately shrinks to half its size, boiling itself in a gray puddle of chemical residue that smells vaguely of bleach and metallic preservatives. You are paying upwards of 8 to 10 pounds a kilo for a product that is heavily bulked out with cheap industrial liquid. Dr. Richard Allen, a leading food standards analyst, publicly noted that this practice is a legal loophole allowing supermarkets to sell water at the price of meat, drastically inflating their profit margins while leaving the consumer with a rubbery, flavorless dinner. It is an absolute rip-off masquerading as a weekly bargain. The situation turns even uglier when you look at the premium supermarkets, the brands that consumers trust explicitly because they wear a badge of high welfare luxury. Let us look directly at Marks & Spencer and Waitrose. Consumers willingly pay double the price of Aldi or Lidl because they believe they are buying absolute purity. However, a damning journalistic expose published by The Guardian uncovered that even premium tiers are heavily reliant on the exact same industrial processing plants and highly accelerated farming methods as the budget lines. The packaging features beautiful illustrations of rolling British hills and heritage names, but the physical reality on the plate tells a completely different story. Real consumer reviews on platforms like Trustpilot for these premium lines are flooded with complaints describing woody breast syndrome, a condition caused by rapid growth where the muscle tissue calcifies, turning what should be a tender cut into a dense, unchewable block that feels like biting into soft timber. The ultimate, most shocking level of this deception sits with the local franchise network that delivers this food to your door. Because head office wanted to distract you from the dropping quality of the chicken, they invested £38 million into rolling out a brand new drinks platform called Quench by KFC across the UK, turning already overstretched, understaffed kitchens into makeshift boba tea and iced coffee bars. Job review sites like Glassdoor are filled with accounts from exhausted British workers describing shifts run on the absolute bare minimum of staff to protect profit margins. This financial pressure is why food is left sweating under heat lamps for hours past its safety window, and why environmental health officers completely shut down a prominent branch in East London after finding a severe rodent infestation, hitting the franchisee with a £25,000 fine. The glossy adverts on British television show a perfect piping hot meal, but the systemic reality is a collapsing franchise model where small businesses are going into administration, leaving you to play Russian roulette with your stomach every single time you order. And now, what it was worth watching all the way through for. Because while the massive high street chains and multi-billion-pound supermarket conglomerates are busy feeding you engineered tap water and hyper-accelerated bird breeds, there is a completely different side to British farming. You do not have to be a victim of corporate marketing ploys, and you do not have to give up your Friday night chicken dinner. There are genuine, accessible alternatives sitting right on your local supermarket shelves that refuse to cut corners, and it is time to look at exactly who is doing it right. We begin with the most accessible, mainstream option for the everyday British shopper, and that is the enhanced welfare ranges now quietly rolling out across the middle-tier supermarkets, specifically Morrisons and Tesco. Faced with immense pressure from consumer groups, Tesco completed a massive multi-million-pound overhaul of its core fresh British chicken range, and Morrisons followed suit by partnering directly with Crown Chicken in East Anglia. What makes these specific options worth your money is a radical shift in how the birds are actually raised inside the sheds. Instead of the industry-standard cramming, these supermarkets drop their maximum stocking density by 20% down to 30 kilograms per square meter, meaning fewer birds per shed and significantly more space to move, perch, and forage. Tesco plc's show One Morrisons has gone a step further by introducing an industry-first on-farm hatching system. Instead of newborn chicks being handled roughly and transported for days without sustenance, they are born directly on the farm with immediate access to food and water. When you cook this enhanced welfare chicken at home, the physical difference is instantly noticeable. It does not release a gray, metallic puddle of chemical slime into your frying pan because it has not been subjected to industrial moisture injection pumps. It costs fractionally more than the absolute bottom-tier value lines, coming in at around 6 to 7 pounds a kilo, but because you are not paying for trapped water that evaporates the second it hits the heat. The cost per serving is virtually identical. You get actual, solid protein that holds its shape and browns beautifully. Morrisons farming, if you want to step up to absolute gold standard purity without completely destroying your weekly budget, the next definitive tier belongs to Marks & Spencer with their Hubbard Higher Welfare Chicken, alongside the essential Waitrose range. These two brands are currently the only major UK supermarket chains that have held firm and fully delivered on the better chicken commitment across their entire own brand production. Their approach is rooted in an entirely different farming philosophy. They completely banned the hyper-accelerated, fast-growing breeds used by the fast food giants instead. M&S and Waitrose exclusively source slower-growing bird breeds that are reared for a full 25% longer, allowing their skeletons and muscles to develop naturally at a healthy, biological pace. Compassion in World Farming has repeatedly recognized this standard with their Good Chicken Award, noting that these birds live active, healthy lives with abundant natural light. The sensory payoff for you is massive. The meat has a dense, firm, traditional texture that completely eliminates the dreaded woody breast syndrome found in cheap alternatives. It tastes rich and genuinely savory without needing a chemical injection of monosodium glutamate to fool your brain. It is slightly more expensive, sitting around 8 to 9 pounds a kilo, but as a weekly family treat. Every single penny goes toward genuine food quality rather than corporate optimization. At the absolute pinnacle of British poultry stands the independent, organic, free-range tier, best represented by Dutchy Organic at Waitrose and the specialized organic lines found at local independent butchers. This is the ultimate choice for consumers who want absolute transparency and zero compromises. These birds are raised under strict Soil Association or RSPCA assured certifications, meaning they spend their days roaming outside on established British pastures, foraging naturally. The downside here is undeniable. The price tag is premium, often reaching 12 to 14 pounds a kilo, which simply does not fit into an everyday budget. But for a weekend roast, it is an entirely different product altogether. The fat profile is rich in omega-3 fatty acids, and the meat cooks to a deep golden crisp with a robust old-school flavor that makes high street fast food look like cardboard. It proves that when British agriculture is treated with respect, the results are unbeatable. To see exactly how these supermarket chicken lines compare under the microscope, check out this investigative breakdown. Supermarket chicken comparison. This video is highly relevant as it uncovers the hidden processing secrets, water injections, and hidden practices across 5 major UK supermarket chains, helping you choose the safest options for your kitchen cupboard. Now that you know exactly who is manipulating your food and who is keeping it real on the British high street, it is time to arm yourself with the concrete tools needed to spot these corporate tricks the next time you walk down the chilled aisle. Treat these 6 rules as your personal shield against the marketing illusionists when shopping at Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, or Morrisons. First, flip the pack over and check the front of pack description instantly. If you see the phrase chicken breast with added water or chicken protein, put it right back on the shelf because it means you are paying meat prices for chemically trapped liquid. Second, scrutinize the ingredients list under Assimilated Regulation No. 1169/2011. Legally, if added water accounts for more than 5% of the finished weight, the manufacturer is forced to declare it. So look for a raw meat ingredient deck that reads 100% chicken with absolutely nothing else listed. Third, scan the label for the red tractor or RSPCA assured logos, but specifically look for text indicating slower growing breed or enhanced welfare, as standard poultry lines can still utilize hyper-accelerated bird breeds under the bare minimum legal criteria. Fourth, be ruthlessly skeptical of beautiful heritage imagery or fictional farm names printed on budget packaging at discount retailers like Aldi or Lidl. If the price sits under £5 a kilo and the pack lacks independent organic or welfare certification, it is an industrial bird, regardless of how green the rolling hills on the plastic wrapper look. Fifth, avoid any raw poultry items where sodium phosphate E4Phe1 or stabilizers are listed in the brine or marinade, as these are the exact chemical magnets industrial processors use to lock in artificial weight before the product hits the supermarket scales. Finally, if you are buying a takeaway treat, entirely avoid ordering fried chicken items for long-distance home delivery through third-party apps, because in closing hot, pressure-fried coating inside a zipped thermal backpack for 20 minutes mathematically guarantees a soggy, steamed, and degraded meal. When you look across the entire landscape of the British food sector, the core principle becomes glaringly obvious. The high street fast food industry and mass market supermarkets are built to prioritize hypervelocity manufacturing, scale, and corporate margins above your health and satisfaction. But by making just one deliberate shift in your daily thinking, by refusing to buy meat based on the glossy picture on the front and choosing instead based on the hard data printed on the back, you instantly stop being a victim of corporate marketing. Ploys, thank you so much for spending your time digging into the truth with me today. If this investigation opened your eyes to what is actually happening behind the high street counters, please share this video with a mate who grabs a bargain bucket every single Friday night without a second thought. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Which of these specific brands is sitting inside your kitchen cupboard right now? And what UK food staple do you want us to pull apart in our next deep dive? Until next time, stay sharp, stay skeptical, and protect your plate. To see exactly how these supermarket chicken lines compare under the microscope, check out this investigative breakdown. Supermarket chicken comparison. This video is highly relevant as it uncovers the hidden processing secrets, water injections, and hidden practices across 5 major UK supermarket chains, helping you choose the safest options for your kitchen cupboard.